This morning we are going to have three experts who work for the Asia Pacific Observatory to come and talk about what the observatory is thinking with regards to the future development of public hospital sector governance. I want to introduce the three speakers, if they wouldn't mind joining us. We'll have Dr. Manuel Darrit, who is the Dean of the University and School of Public Health from the Philippines. We have Professor Robin Gold, who is Dean of the Business School and Vice Chancellor of University of Otago. And we have Dr. Walaiporn, who is the backbone of IHPP. The backbone of IHPP. I have to choose my words very carefully in here. What we would like to do is to begin with is give a presentation about the Asia Pacific Observatory. And then we will move from that onto the first volume that the APO produced on public hospital governance in the Asia Pacific, which really was a collection of 7 case studies from different countries in the region as to how they are dealing with the challenges of governance. And then we'll move into the current work that is being led by the 3 people I mentioned when it comes to the future thinking of governance, the challenges and the modalities. So to begin with, let me tell you a little bit about the APO. This is me selling what I do now. For those of you who don't know, I used to work for WHO in Thailand up to last October. So the HA Forum, the Thailand is like a home. I've been here many times. So let me tell you a little bit about the APO to begin with. The Asia Pacific Observatory started in 2012. It was originally hosted by WHO regional office in Manila, but in August of last year moved to Delhi. And it's the partnership of intergovernmental organizations, universities, and different countries. So we have on our board governments of Hong Kong, Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, and Korea. We also have both the ADB and the World Bank, as well as the WHO, CIRO, and WIPRO on the board. And then we have a number of university groupings, the IHPP and Tokyo University, Jiu Kanshan University, and Northern Institute in Melbourne as the main hubs who do a lot of the work for us. What we do is basically identify priority health system issues across Asia Pacific, and then develop and synthesize relevant research to support and inform the evidence what the countries needs, and try in that process to build the capacity in those countries. Our research hubs, which are really the people who do bulk of the work, is a network of universities. So although we have a hub of 4 institutes and universities, behind that there are another 30 or so universities who work closely with them. And they are the ones who are involved in identifying the research issues in conjunction with the ministries and with the board. And they do the analysis and the research, and then they develop the initial products. Going through various rounds of peer review is finalized, and then they help with this dissemination. As I said, the hubs is DKU in Shanghai, Tokyo University IHPP as one hub between Tokyo and Bangkok, and Northern Institute in Melbourne. The APU itself is actually very small. The secretariat is only 3 people, and we work with the board. And really a lot of our work is coordinating of those activities that the hubs do and the boards do and the countries do, and making sure that once it's peer-reviewed and acceptable independently, that it's published and distributed. What's unique is that although we work with quite often with the governments, we try to produce things independently. So it's not unusual for APO publication not to be rosy about the health system of a country. We would highlight the challenges that the health system have. Okay, so what do we actually produce? The most important, I guess, the one which is best known is Health in Transitions. These are flagship products which are, can you read that? Produced collaboratively, and they are basically analysis of the let me just clear this so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, the systematic and a comprehensive analysis of the health system of the country. We have yesterday published our 15th, what we call HIT, which was for Indonesia. Thailand HIT was published back in 2015 in English version and 2016 in Thai version. In addition to that, we used to have HIT, living hits, which were updated version of a specific chapter or sub-chapter if there was a huge amount of difference. And then we have what we call the HIT policy notes, which are short documents aimed at policymakers on a specific topic which arose because of the discussion. A HIT could be comprehensive. I think Thai HIT was 230 or 40 pages. So it does try to bring everything known about the health system in the country, from financing all the way to future challenges and service delivery. These are the countries where we have produced the HIT, and the ones in the red at the bottom are the ones which we are currently working on. And certainly we hope that the bulk of the important countries in the region should have a health system analysis done by 2017, 2018. The template that we use is actually very similar to European observatories. If anybody has, and we collaborated with them in developing that template. So if anybody has done a master's in London School, you will invariably have used some of the European observatory hits when it came to looking at different health systems in Europe. So what's in a HIT? As I said, we have a setting of the scene, looking at demography of the countries, epidemiology of the countries, looking at the governance structure within the health sector, and also in relation to the rest of the country's governance structure. The financing, how is money coming to the health sector and how is it distributed from the funder, if you like, all the way down to the providers, on what basis. The human resource, the modalities of health service delivery, and then the major health reforms over the previous years, and then assessment of how it is and the challenges and conclusions. As I said, the policy note, these are much shorter. Because HIT is such a big document, we know that it will not be able to be read comprehensively by the policymakers in that country. When we do the analysis, it's really something which is being used by academics. It's being used by other countries who want to know what the neighboring country is doing. How is their health sector? But we understand that within the country, the policymakers either are aware of the situation or they don't have time to sit down and read the 200-page document. So in the process of developing a HIT, there's always specific issues that came up in that process. So because of that, we try to go a bit deeper in those specific topics and produce something short, specifically aimed for the policymakers in that country. So in this case, these are about 8 to 10 pages, which are then produced and distributed for a specific question. Now, those are the country-specific work. The policy briefs are the second tier of products that we produce. They're short. They're meant to be about 4 or 5 pages of actual brief, plus about 25 pages of the background document. And they're focusing on issues which are important across the region. So not unique to one country. There could be something which is happening across the countries. And that's something which the countries are asking APO to support them, to bring the latest information on that topic. And the examples are, for example, on quality of care, on a policy brief on water statistics updates, on dual practice in South and in East Asia, for example. And we're also working on a number of new ones. We're looking at, again, patient safety in primary healthcare. We're looking at role of the ASEAN vis-a-vis mutual recognition issues when it comes to health sector, for example. So there are some of the other work that we are doing which will be coming out in 2017 or 2018. The third piece, or if you like the fourth piece that we are working on, are the country comparative studies. These are primary research. So up to now, most of our work is not primary research. It's based on what's available in published data, gray literature, sometimes interviews with the specific people within the sector. But otherwise, it's secondary research data. Now, the CCSs are primary research, where the team agrees on a topic and wants to look at the comparative analysis between countries on that topic, often using case studies. Now, again, we have produced a number of them. The most recent one was management of the NCD and the elderly, where we were comparing Thailand and Sri Lanka. Prior to that, we produced the hospital governance in the public sector, and I will go into that in a bit more detail. And we are also working on a number of other ones which will be published. The analysis will be finished this year and published next year, probably. Now, so that was basically a brief analysis of what is APO. I want to talk a little bit now about the public hospital governance, the volume 1, which was published in 2015. But all of these are available from our website to download. Let me bring this forward a little bit more so I can read this. Okay. I'm going to briefly summarize this because the other speakers are going to go into more detail about the future and they're related to some extent. So basically, the hospital reform, we acknowledged that it was an integral part of the service delivery in Asia-Pacific region, just like the rest of the world. And just like many other parts of the world, there is a trend towards decentralization and privatization and increase of accountability of hospitals. That's something which is coming out in the analysis. The paper actually looked at 7 different countries: India, Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, New Zealand, and Sri Lanka, to look at how either the whole sector or specific bits of the sector are working. And they wanted to look at describe the policy context, the policy development that has happened recently, and the reform when it came to public hospital governance, and also to describe the success of publicly owned hospital governance and performance in those selected countries. And in doing that, they were looking at efficiency, quality, and responsiveness of that sector, using performance indicators which were looking at equity, effective coverage, integration of the actual hospital within the overall health delivery system, and how much of that change and reform was contributing to the national health goals. So we were looking at not just within the hospital, but also looking at the macro level of the health architecture and to see how much were the linkages there. So in doing that, they were looking at 4 questions to fundamentally pull out this information. What and how are policies affecting governance of publicly owned hospitals? What and how do the different internal factors, including organizational capacities, technical and managerial, contribute to quality and efficiency? What and how do external factors interact with hospital governance? And how is the hospital performance measured, both internally and relative to other hospitals? So those were, if you like, the thinking when they went to developing this thing. And the findings, as I said, I'm going to be a very broad brush on this. The findings, the significant finding was that, as we suspected, there's an increasing autonomy in many of the countries. And that includes increased management autonomy as well as increased autonomy when it comes to service delivery. There's been a huge focus on financial reform, primarily for controlling the cost and increasing utilization. And as part of that autonomy, there is increased accountability. What was very much identified is, and this is happening across the world globally, is how can we measure hospital performance? What is a good scoring system, if you like, on measurement of hospital performance, which takes into account various domains. And in the presentation given by my colleagues later on, we'll see that there are some of the thinking that's going on into that. And that's the role of external factors. Local government and decentralization has a huge impact. But at the same time, it's well known that quite often at the local government level, there is a lack of capacity in them understanding the responsibility on the health sector that's been given to them. And of course, we have very little good, credible data when it comes to outcome measures. So I think that's basically the presentation from my side. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the APO and also a little bit about the background of what we did in the first volume on hospital governance. As I said, you can actually download the whole thing among all our publications from our website here.